It's getting on for about a year now since I reviewed the Xiaomi action camera. Very popular camera, still in use with a lot of people. They really like the image quality. Anyway, the Xiaomi company has now decided to come out with a Dashcam, and I've managed to get hold of one of these. I've got an early release one, imported it from China. It does mean, of course, though, that it's all in Chinese in the menus. It hasn't been released to other countries yet, so the only menus on this one are all in Chinese. But I'm sure we can figure it out because dashcams all pretty much work the same way. In fact, on that subject, let me just show you some FAQs on screen now. These are things that people always ask about dashcams, and the basic features of dashcams are all the same. So this video, I'm going to skip past all this stuff. If you're going to ask any of those questions, pause, have a look at the screen now, but I'm just going to whiz straight into talking about the camera in general. Let's have a look what's inside the box itself. It's a pretty simple setup, this one. It's a basic dash cam, but it covers all the basics that you generally need. Those are the things that you get in there. We've got a micro USB to full-size USB lead with a right angle plug on the micro USB, and nice that you get a separate lead because that means you can plug that into this thing, which is your car lighter socket adapter, into twin USBs, and of course that means you can plug something else into there as well at the same time. We've got a suction cup mount here, which is a compact one, and that attaches into the top of the camera here with this sliding mount. Goes in from the side, clicks in place like that. Doesn't seem to rattle around at all. It's quite tough actually to get that one off, so it might be a little bit fiddly in your car if you're trying to reach up to your windscreen and do it. Now, of course, with it being just for the Chinese market, it comes with Chinese instructions, but I say we can figure this out because dashcams, there's not much to them at all. Quick tour around the camera. So, of course, on the front, we've got that 165-degree lens and a microphone hole below that. On this side, we've got the micro SD card slot. No card in the box. You'll have to supply your own. Class 10 up to 64 gigabytes maximum size. On this side, we've got the micro USB slot, and below that, there's a little reset hole as well. The micro USB is, of course, for powering it as well as taking files off. On the top of the camera, we've got that slot for the mount as well as some vents, and on the bottom we have some more vents. And then finally, on the back of the camera, we've got an LCD screen there with 4 buttons below that and 2 little LEDs at the bottom right to indicate what's going on. Let's get the camera powered up. So I've got this USB plugged into a USB port at the other end. You can see the lights come on at the bottom right there. The camera starts recording very quickly. You can see the flashing light at the bottom right there. And if I just look at the top of the screen, I'll just cover this up, you can see the little red indicator flashing at the top of the screen as well. Of course, the camera's got a G sensor or shock sensor, so if you hit it like that, or if you were to be involved in a crash, you can see this red indicator across the bottom showing that it's saving a separate file. It saves a 20-second file that consists of 10 seconds before the impact and 10 seconds after. Puts that in a different folder. You can also activate that manually by pressing the red circle button on the left. Your normal video files are also created, so this is a separate second video file of that incident. Now, if we go into the menus here, very little to look at. It's all got pictures on here, quite easy to understand. Resolution at the top there. Notice below that we've got 3 dots. That indicates there's 3 options on that particular thing. So we've got 2304 by 1296 at 30 frames per second. If we go through it, we've got 1920 by 1080 at 30 frames a second, or 1920 by 1080 at 60 frames a second. Those are your 3 video options. And then next one, obviously microphone, on or off. This is your G sensor sensitivity. I believe the 1 indicator at the bottom there is low sensitivity, i.e. it would need a big shock to activate it, and then 3 indicators would be very sensitive and therefore a light shock would activate it. This ADAS thing on the bottom left here, this is something I switch off, but it's Advanced Driver Assistance Systems. Basically, if you drift out of your lane, it'll make a beep sound, and if you go too close to the vehicle in front, it'll also make some sort of warning alert sound. Not something that I need. I'm going to use my eyes to do that. And then the next thing along, we've got the Wi-Fi on or off. You see we've got the 2 options below that. This is the screen, how long before the screen turns off and goes blank. 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or keep it on all the time. So that's the screen blanking. Of course, you want it quite low for nighttime use. Micro SD card, that's if you want to format the micro SD in the camera. That resets everything back to normal, and that gives you the information about the particular camera firmware, etc. So I said it was a simple camera, and as you can see, there weren't an awful lot of things in there to mess around with. It was all pretty much self-explanatory. So let's go out and have a look at some sample clips that I've recorded with the camera. As always, download these if you want to see the true original quality, not the YouTube downsampled, lower bitrate, blocky, blurry version. But anyway, let's have a look at this now. I was out shooting around in Liverpool with the camera, so there's a bit of that footage in here. You might find some of this interesting. I'm showing you some indoor stuff, transitioning to going outdoors here, sun in the camera's lens. This is kind of the worst case scenario for a camera, and as you can see, it works perfectly. Now, a little bit of trivia as I'm going along the waterfront here at Liverpool. On the right hand side, you'll see a stripy building. That used to be the headquarters of the White Star Line at the time the Titanic sank, and it had to stand on the balcony there and read out the names of the list of dead people. Right, so let's look at something a little bit more fun. If you see the green side on the left, just wait for this. There's going to be a little bit of a jump. And there it is. And that is when I joined two video files together. The camera records 3-minute long clips. You can't adjust that. Every clip is 3 minutes in length. When you join two of those together, like I've done in editing here, you'll find the second clip repeats just a fraction of a second or so at the end of the first clip. So you get that little bit of a jump back. And that's to avoid you losing any footage in between clips if the accident was to happen right at the end of a clip, for example. So I'm trying to show you a few different situations here, a bit of traffic, some buildings, all that kind of stuff, and then on the next shot I'll show what it looked like earlier on in the day when I was driving towards the sun, because this is something that trips up quite a lot of cameras. When you're driving towards low sun, they quite often get the exposure wrong, and as you can see here, you can see as much as I could actually see as I was driving along. I was squinting trying to see things, but it's still good that you can make out what colour the traffic lights were when I went through them, all that kind of stuff. So everything seems to be working fine. Now let's have a look at this nighttime shot. Again, an awful lot of colour in the scene. To say it's a low light environment, black sky, all the colour coming out of the signs and the buildings and things there. But let's just have a listen to the sound recording capabilities of the camera for a second. Right, so this is a good opportunity to do a bit of talking, so I can speak to the camera. You can hear how well it can pick up my voice in the car. So I'm going to cut back in on myself here because I started sort of going on and rambling and mumbling to myself, and it's not that entertaining. But basically, as you could hear, the sound quality is fine. And now we're going to test out what it's like with no street lights. So that's the last one on the right there, and then this is what it looks like when we're driving along with no street lights. All we've got is the full beam on the car, and I'm sure you can see from this that the quality of the image for that is fine as well. So really, the Xiaomi Dashcam seems to get all the basics right. It does everything that you need it to do, and it produces some brilliant quality video, in my opinion. I mean, if they were to use this on those kind of cop shows rather than the stuff they use, it looks so much better, and you're paying, I don't know, 70 quid perhaps for a Dashcam. Ridiculous. Anyway, let's have a look at some other stuff. On the memory card on the camera, you'll find a folder within which are 3 folders for emergency, movie and photos. Now, if we look at the types of files that you get in the video files, there are MP4s. Let's just look at the stats for those. So we've got MP4s, which are an AVC codec. I only recorded in the highest resolution. I didn't see any point in messing around with the others, which got 20.13 megabits a second. I say it does 3-minute clip lengths that you can't adjust at the moment. So there's a 455.5 megs in size because it seems to be a fixed bit rate. Maximum SD card size 64 gigs. Battery life, I'm mentioning that because people will ask, it's just 15 mins. I mean, it's supposed to run on power supplied by your car, not on battery power. It does have a battery in rather than a capacitor though. I want to show you that you can play back the video files on the camera itself, which is where your 15 minutes life might come in useful. If you want to take the camera out of your car, show a policeman some footage or something where you got 15 minutes of battery life in which to do it. Now, if you want, you can manually delete those files as well, but there's no real need to because they'll get overwritten, of course. Now, if you look at the top row here, in the middle I've got a JPEG, and on the right I've got an MP4, but with a pink logo at the top left. That is an emergency file. That's how you identify them when you look through the menus. Now, this is a 20-second long file. Notice the time counting up at the left. When it gets to 10 seconds, that's when it was activated. That's when I went over a pothole, and the whole file length is 20 seconds in total, and that gets stored in that separate emergency folder. Now, every time one of those things gets activated, it creates a JPEG, which is the thing in the middle there. So that is a still of the exact moment that the G sensor was activated. I should mention also that you cannot switch off the G sensor. You can adjust the sensitivity, but you can't switch it off entirely. Now, if you want to delete one of these emergency files, look what happens. I'll select the delete thing and it says, no, you can't do it. You've got to use the app. So to delete emergency files, you have to use the Wi-Fi app, or you could, of course, format the card entirely within the camera. So we'll test out that Wi-Fi app. Now I'm going to do it on iOS, and to find it, I look for the Xiaomi Action Camera app, and then I look for the other apps that were made by the same people, and there it was down at the bottom. So I download it from there. Of course, in the future, when you watch this video in 6 months' time, I'm sure there'll be an English version of this app, but I'm just showing you now the only one that's available, which is this Chinese one. As you can see, it gives you a bit of a talk through on screen as to how to connect up. It works the same as every other Wi-Fi app. So basically, you've got to put a Wi-Fi password in to connect up to your camera. As you can see at the bottom there, 123456789 So that's the password. So make sure the Wi-Fi is switched on the camera itself. You might be better off powering that camera because remember the battery's going to run down pretty quick on it. But anyway, we've got the thing connected up to the Wi-Fi there now. It connects up really quickly actually. I'm quite impressed with that. And then once we've got it all up and running, we can see the video files that are on the camera. These are the emergency files first of all. These are the 20-second long files that have been created by me driving over potholes and things. And then in the second thing at the top here, we've got the normal video files just created as standard. So let's click on one of those that we've just had a look at. So click on that one in the middle there. You can see you can look through thumbnails there to see if it's the video file that you want, which is a nice little thing because I haven't downloaded this yet. It's just downloaded the thumbnails to the app, which is nice. See the size at the top there, 455 megs. So try downloading it. It's going to take quite a while. So let's not wait for that. We'll stop that one. And what we'll do is we'll have a look at one that I downloaded earlier on. So third icon along the top, those are the ones that I've saved to my phone, and this is one of the files that we've downloaded. You can put it in landscape mode so we can have a proper look at it. As you can see, it plays nice on screen there. Of course, we've got the sound and everything. So everything's working really well with this app. Obviously, we've got the language barrier, but that is pretty much all. Other than that, it seems to work really well. Now let's go and delete those emergency files that we couldn't delete off the camera. So I've selected the pen icon and I'm picking 4 of these at the top here. These are in the emergency file tab at the top. Click on the trash can, click the red one for OK, and those are now deleted. So that's how you delete any emergency files off the camera, other than of course reformatting the whole thing. So there you can see we've got a live video feed on screen of what the camera can see. So if we press the button here, it'll start recording. Notice we're getting a little bit of a countdown timer on there before it starts off properly. At least I think that's what's going on. But anyway, it starts off recording in a second. And you can see that if we look at the camera itself, you can see the little record indicator LED at the bottom right is flashing. I'll just go and grab that so you can have a look at it. There you go, that little sort of yellow LED. Is it yellow? Anyway, it's flashing. Right, so to stop it recording, of course, we can also press that red button as well, and then it does a bit of a countdown the other way. So let's fast forward because we're not got all day to show this. Settings, top right. These are the same settings that you get on the camera menus. At least I think they are. I mean, we've got things that I recognise here, like the resolution options there at the bottom, which we can pick between the same 3. There's a few other things on here that I'm not entirely sure what they are, but I'm pretty sure they're going to be the same things that are in the menus. There's one new one that I can see on there, though, and it says logo, and it's switched off at the moment. So I'll switch that one on. And what that does, completely superfluous, it puts a little logo at the top left of your video footage that says Yi on it. So that, to the best of my knowledge, is a full tour of pretty much every feature that I can demonstrate to you that this camera has. So if you're wondering, does it do this, does it do that, what about the other, I've shown everything it's got. I noticed it doesn't have a micro HDMI out, it doesn't have a mic in, you can't swap the battery, it doesn't have built-in GPS, it only has the things that you saw during the course of this video. And as you saw looking at those menus, there's not an awful lot there. It's a very simple device. One thing I will point out, the micro USB lead that's supplied inside the box will not transfer data across, it's just for power. If you want to get data off the camera by plugging a micro USB lead into here, you're going to have to supply your own fully wired up data compatible lead. Or of course you could unplug the micro SD card out to the other side, put it into a card reader and plug that into your computer. So let's try and sum up everything that we've learnt about this. Well, of course, the first thing is that it's currently all in Chinese in the app and in the on-screen menus and things, but you can pretty much get around that. There's not much that you don't understand. One thing I will say, though, it isn't the kind of camera that will be suitable for people that want a discreet model that they can hide away. It is quite noticeable, and you can see it quite easily through a car windscreen. I do like the fact that the micro USB lead that's supplied is one of those separate ones, so it enables you to plug two things into your lighter socket. That's good thinking. And overall, the video quality on this thing, as far as I'm concerned, is outstanding. So at the time I'm making this video, the only way to get hold of this particular Dashcam is to buy a Chinese language version. I'm quite sure in a couple of months' time there'll be an English language version available as well. I'll have links up in the video description where you can purchase one of these, and of course there's links up there to those downloadable samples as well. But that's it for the moment. As always, thanks for watching.
Oh, boring! Yet another Dashcam review.
Have you considered that possibly this video wasn't made just for you? After all, you're not allowed to drive since the incident.
Oh, you always bring this up. I'll have you know that 6 of those people have made a partial recovery. Besides which, they've learnt a valuable lesson. You should always keep your eye out for traffic.
They were inside a McDonald's!
Yep, danger can strike at any moment.
Yeah, you're not wrong there.